All right, come on, settle down, get in your spots. Welcome to Bay Delta 101. Today we're going to start learning about the Bay Delta, the living, breathing heart of California's ecosystem and water system. California is dry in the south and wet in the north. The blue circle, or shaded area, is the watershed for the delta. All the water that falls within that area flows out through the delta. 16,000 years ago, during the last ice age, the delta was all the way out past where the bay is today. Sea levels were lower, and the San Francisco Bay was little more than a river valley. By about 1873, we formed into more of our current situation. However, Tulare Lake and the Tulare marshlands have entirely disappeared, and the Bay Delta wetlands have been dramatically reduced. The Sacramento River provides about 70% of the water that flows through the Bay Delta, and its strong influence is what has kept the remaining wetlands intact. As you can see here, we had a very vast wetlands, and now most of it has been converted to agriculture. The light green is the wetlands, freshwater wetlands, and the brown is the agriculture. The introduction of flood control levees, dikes, and other such mechanisms has herded the Sacramento River further to the west. No longer does it flow through the wetlands south and then back to the west. It almost directly takes a path towards the ocean, leaving the lower portion of the wetlands dry. Now, much of this is from farming on basically islands with big barrier walls outside of them as far as subsidence, but much of the land is subsided. Okay, X2. This is a measure of salt water, or how far salt water travels from the Golden Gate Bridge up through the bay and towards or into the Bay Area wetlands. The darker red areas are the salt water. The yellow line is the separator between the salt water and the fresh water. This is the X2 measurement. It is measured 1 meter off the floor of the San Francisco Bay Basin. The bottom profile is from 1994. You'll note that the division between the salt and fresh water is very vertical. In 95, the yellow line bends toward the opening of the bay, toward the sea, and this provides a huge area for phytoplankton to breed and reproduce, establishing the food chain for the Bay Area. Getting more water into the lower elevations of the delta itself is important for the ecosystem, the fish, all the species involved. But it's also important for getting water out of the delta and to the farms that need it. Now, this chart shows total inputs of fresh water into the Bay Delta, the TOT at the top in blue, exports, the little pink line down at the bottom, and water flushed out to sea. As you can tell, in a wet year like 2011, we leave a lot of water that's going out beyond what's required to establish and maintain the X2 factor, and we're just simply wasting a lot of water. The logistics of getting water through the delta are difficult. What you think, we should call UPS? They couldn't do worse than the politicians, could they? To give you an idea of the magnitude of the problem, the Tulare Basin, shown here in purple as part of the larger Sacramento Valley Basin, has been depleted by about 65 million acre-feet of water over a 50-year period ending in 2002. That's about 1.3 million acre-feet per year that has gone directly into food production for the United States. According to the USGS, a full 25% of the nation's table food comes from only 1% of our country's farmland, and it's located in the Central Valley of California. Of that 25%, the top 3 counties of Fresno, Tulare, and Kern are located on the Tulare Basin. Their combined areas are shown in green. Old Tulare Lake used to be right in the middle of now what is Kings County. This is now a dried up lake bed with pretty salty soils. All right, guys, come on, wake up. All I need is about 2 more minutes of your attention, so pay attention. There's going to be a test at the end. Okay, so now that you know some stuff about the delta and the consequences if we don't improve its efficiency, let's look at some of the plans that are proposed in front of our legislature and see how they will affect the delta, the bay, the ecosystem, and agriculture. The first plan we're going to look at is the San Joaquin River Restoration Program. Now, this is a noble concept of putting water back into the San Joaquin River and rehabilitating the river for salmon runs and the environment in general. The problem is it steals water from farmers and will increase the deficit in the Tulare Basin. Now, the second project we're going to look at is the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, which costs $25 billion and will create 34 miles of 40-foot diameter tunnels to pump water from above the delta to the current pumping stations. If you think of the lower areas of the Bay Delta as an aquarium, a 20-gallon aquarium, this program will relieve this aquarium of about 5 to 7 gallons of its water. What's the purpose in having a bigger tank if you drain the water out? The third project we're going to look at is CalFed's Central Canal Project, or the preferred option. This is probably by far the best plan in terms of getting water through the delta in terms of cost and efficiency. Basically, at the upper delta, we're going to divert the water to its historic flow direction, which is from north to south and then east to west. This is closer to the way the delta would have functioned in its historic state about 1800. This will provide more water for the fish in our aquarium and will enable us to pump more water from the delta. It'll accomplish both. The next project we're going to look at is the Sites Reservoir Project. Now, any storage project is generally a good idea in terms of conserving water. However, projects above the delta, north of the delta, have an issue in that when they release the water, at least 50% of it is going to go out to sea. Typically, dams in Northern California release their waters in the fall and summer. During this time frame, it's easy to see that we don't get as much out as we could. In the winter, when it's raining real hard, we should be pumping a lot more. We just don't have enough storage south of the delta to take the waters. In dry years like 1985, the releases from dams in the north only net us 50% or less of the water coming through the pumps to the south. So for projects like the Sites Reservoir, do you really want to pay to store 2 or 3 cubic feet of water to get 1 cubic foot of water out the other end? Not very cost efficient. The last project we're going to look at is raising the Shasta Dam. And this is another northern storage project. We don't have to pump the water into it, but we're still only going to get half the water out the other side of the delta. In every project we look at, we have to mind the ecology and look to recharge the Tulare Basin and produce food. The basins shown in red are in the rain shadow of the coastal mountains and will not catch enough water to fully fill themselves. This will be the place where we can pump wet season water from the Bay Delta and store it, so eventually we can use it to recharge the Tulare Basin. This is the thing that has to be done. Must recharge the Tulare Basin. Using existing technology from the San Luis Reservoir and the O'Neill Forebay, we can use pump generating plants. In other words, they will pump water out of the canals and behind dams, and during the dry season they will release that water and actually generate power reducing our energy bill. The Central Canal Project will allow enough water to pass through the delta that we can marginally increase our summertime pumping, but certainly increase our wintertime pumping and fill these reservoirs so we can eventually recharge the Tulare Basin. The three major reservoirs shown here should provide about 1.5 million acre feet of storage. This is just short of the site's reservoir, but it requires less dams and it'll probably cost about the same. But it will allow us not only to recharge the Tulare Basin, support the farmers, it'll also allow us to resculpture the old Tulare Basin and the old Tulare Lake. We'll need lots of water sitting on top of ground to resaturate this subterranean basin. That's enough for today, though. Go home, research some of these issues that we've discussed, and look at saving the environment and saving water. We'll see you next time.